Hello and welcome on Thomas Geiger Car. Today with the first sneak peek into the electric future of Mercedes-Benz. Because a good year before the market launch of the EQC, I'm gonna sit and drive in the first electric purpose-built vehicle of the Stuttgart manufacturer. Not driving on my own, but at least on the passenger seat. So if you want to know what to expect from the first Tesla fighter out of Stuttgart, join me on my test drive and I'll tell you more about it. The EQC is not only silent and you really have a different feeling for the drive, it's also very comfortable and very mature due to the pretty high weight because of the big battery that is placed in the floor of the car, so you have a low center of gravity. That makes it really smooth and relaxing driving the vehicle. And since the engine is so silent, the engineers took extra care for noise and vibrations, so the car overall is very silent and you got a comfortable feeling like you're be driven in an S-Class and not in a compact SUV. Sadly, I'm not allowed to drive the vehicle, but at least on a parking spot I was allowed to take a seat behind the wheel. Gives me the chance to tell you a bit about the technology that is built in here. We have two electrical engines, one at the front, one on the rear axle. Both about 150 kilowatts. That means you have all-wheel drive if necessary and you have a perfect torque distribution to give you a good stability, good acceleration, good comfort, so the engineers can play with the power in the front and the back. And we have a battery of about 70 kilowatt hours, maybe a little more, enough to give you 400 kilometers of range in the WLTP circus. As long as you sit in the EQC and standing still, you might feel like in a more modern GLC. But it's totally different if the car is driving, because it's incredibly fast and totally silent. That is a combination even AMG can't get you. So once you accelerate at a red light, you're definitely the hero and leaving big sports cars behind. And 0 to 100 is estimated a little more than 5 seconds. That makes you one of the fastest cars in your neighborhood. Top speed might be limited, I guess, to something about 200 just due to the range, but overtaking should be easy, and as I said, driving off from a red light has never been more fun. Obviously the car is covered with camouflage pretty heavily, so I can't tell you about the design details. But we know the show car with the slim front, and we know the car is based on the Mercedes GLC architecture. But for the electric vehicle, Mercedes has extended the length for about 10 centimeters and lowered the roofline for about 5 centimeters. Good for the space inside and good for the drag coefficient. As you see, you can't see anything from the interior. But without the camera, I was allowed to take a sneak peek under the covers, and I could tell you, just look at the A-Class and you get a pretty good idea how the EQC might look like. Maybe some different color scheme. Remember, rose gold is one of the favorite colors of the head of design at Mercedes, and copper is something like electrical. Then you get a pretty good idea how the car might look like. And for sure you will have the latest infotainment, the latest user experience. MBUX are the letters you should get familiar with. Sitting on the passenger seat of the EQC reminds me somehow on the GLC, especially if the car is fully covered with camouflage also from the inside. There is a good reason for that, because the car is built on the same line as GLC and C-classes. So Mercedes has tried to keep the changes to a minimum. Car will be built in Bremen and in Beijing, and it's fully flexible. So maybe it's not the most innovative interior, but it stands for a most probably affordable price and for high volume. At least that's what the engineers are telling me. Thanks for joining me on that first ride in the new Mercedes EQC. Yes, it's still a long wait until the car hits the market and the figures are not finalized yet. But as far as I can tell from my passenger ride and from the things the engineers told me, this is gonna be an electric vehicle for the everyday use. And this car is gonna cause some headaches somewhere in California, because Mr. Musk, this car will heavily compete against Model 3 and Model X. The time in the comfort zone for Tesla is over. Time to stand the competition. Thank you, Tschüsschen, and bye-bye.